Hey everybody, welcome to the Purpose People podcast. So today I'm really excited to welcome Diana from SafetyBee. So welcome.
Thank you.
So you have taken the brave step to go from working in a business to coming out and starting something for yourself. Has that always been a dream of yours, or is that something that you've been thinking about for a while and then thought, well, if I don't do it now, when am I going to do it? How have you got to that point?
Well, I've always, even from a young age, I've always wanted to run. Well, I'm from quite a big family.
How big?
So I've got 5 sisters and 2 brothers.
Oh, wow.
And
where are you? What number?
I'm number 3.
Oh, okay.
So, and we used to play a game as children called The Authorities. And I think we watched a program one day and then we took the word, we were too young to know what the word authorities meant. But we took this word and we used to play a game called The Authorities. And we would hold catalogues or different books and things and put a sheet of paper on it and hold a pen and pretend to be the authorities. So when we go outside the front door, the other one be on the inside, would knock the door and say, hello, we're the authorities. So it's just a game we played as children. And it's always been in my mind. And I think, so from there, because myself and my sisters, we're all, and my brothers, or at least one of my brothers, we're quite entrepreneurial. Mm-hmm. So we've never really made it to the, to be earning the high figures.
Yeah.
But we've all been entrepreneurial in the sense that we've all, have set up a business or are working for ourselves, or, have just had that desire to run a business and work for ourselves and not be held back by any kind of boundaries. So, it's come from a young age.
It's interesting. It's like there's a school of thought, certainly within the education system, which I still think they do now, is that they learn through play. So at a point they're playing and they're learning and and then all of a sudden we then transition them from learning through play into a classroom environment whereby it's pen, paper, and being taught from the front. And I think we do miss a lot when we remove that learning through play, because the great thing about learning through play is there is this role playing that we do naturally. And then we spend the next 10, 12 years writing, and we have to learn that, right? But we never role play again until we do work experience right at the end of our career. And then we go, what are you going to do? And you're like, hang on a minute. What? School's finishing, and are you going to go to university? Are you going to do? And we don't know. And I think what you've pointed out there for me is just like we need to almost discover through play what we're going to do. And I think there's some great clues in what we do. So you said the game called Authorities. For me, it was playing with Lego and telling stories.
Right.
So there's a lot of stuff we naturally do that are in us that we don't pay a close attention to until someone points it out many years later. And I think there's definitely an aspect of that learning through play, that role playing and whatever, that what you enjoy, you can eventually become.
Yeah. It's funny you say that because my mum, she didn't see that in us when we were little, but she saw other things, which now we're older are coming to pass, which is great. And with my children, from when they were young, I was... I'm a trained early years teacher, so I know about Montessori.
Yeah.
So, and I was always watching my children as they were growing and developing to see what was coming out of them, or what signs they were displaying towards a certain career.
Yeah.
And so, and it's funny because my middle son in particular, I saw him. He used to play with Lego and build Lego when he was tiny. He just learned to walk. And he was building Lego taller than himself. And I used to say to his dad, because their dad was a director of a construction firm, and I used to say, this one is going to work in construction 100%, because he would just build these things,
Yeah.
a tiny baby, without being taught. And it wasn't as if his older brother and sister would do that for him to follow. So it was just naturally in him. And it's funny because he's 25 now and he is working in construction, and he's going to come and work with me. This is Elliot. He's going to come and work with me in SafetyBee.
That's incredible. So,
Yeah.
so from your perspective, you're doing this game called Authorities, and then you obviously grow up in the school system, and then ultimately you're going to have that question: what do you want to be when you grow up?
Yeah.
Where were you then? What was in your head then?
God, that's a good question.
Were you thinking of like going to study more, or were you thinking of just taking a job? What were you
Well,
looking-
definitely studying more, but even when I was young, I didn't really know what I was doing, but I was always interested in something. I wasn't really given direction, like how I would give my children direction now, or when they were growing up. But I was always doing something. So there was a time I was interested in fashion design. And I remember, I pulled my mother's curtains down and she went out. So I thought, I want to, do a bit of sewing. So I thought she won't mind. I pulled the curtains down and designed and sewed an outfit. She went crazy when she came back, but at the same time, she bought me a sewing machine then for my 16th birthday. So I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, but I was always trying something. And even then, with the sewing, it sustained me while I was bringing up the children, and different times in my life. If I didn't have a full-time job, I would always be turning my hands to something. So, but I've always been sort of not sure what I'm going to do here, not sure what I'm going to do there. I did just lots of things until when I got married. Their dad and I were together from school, but years later, when we were married, and he started working within construction, we used to go out and about, because I'd say, what are you doing? He'd leave. I'd be there with the children. He'd leave, come home, and I wouldn't have a clue what he did all day.
Yeah.
So I used to bother him and say, come on, show me what you've been doing. He said, I'm building this and building that. There's the blueprints for this and the blueprints for that. So I got really interested in what he was doing. And plus, I believed in I really wanted to be that Proverbs 31 woman, and I wanted to know what my husband was doing and what could I do to help him. And so then I bothered him so much. He'd come home from work, we'd eat, get the kids ready for bed. We wouldn't put them to bed. We would just go out and look around. He'd show me everything, what he was doing. Have a look at this style, look at that roof. We're building this property. Oh, we had an award for this. This is the property I was telling you about. And so I just really fell in love with construction, with buildings, and with safety.
Yeah.
Because I remember, to this day, I can remember him saying, Di, this is one of our buildings. We're doing this, that, and the other. And I said to him, where does that gate lead to? There's no stairs for this gate. And he said, we've got a really bad scaffold. We're going to sack him and blah, blah, blah because of the state of the scaffolding.
Yeah.
And so then it snowballed into, my God, I'm here with my children. My husband's going to work. Wayne could get up on top of that scaffold, and if there's an issue, he could fall and not come home at the end of the day. And it just pricked something in my heart that, wow, and then he talked about safety and this, that, and the other. And one of the workers in the office, it was her role to do health and safety. And it just, things, when things just start coming, like the pieces of a puzzle started coming together.
Yeah.
And I just started to love safety. And I think it was purely because people were going home. And I think at the time as well, it was on the news, a lot of different things were happening in the news. But I just remember thinking, oh my God, my husband could go home and never come home again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting you say that, like within the construction game, we take that for granted.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, you go into an office, 99.9% are expecting husband, wife, whoever to come back. But construction, we don't really focus that when something goes wrong, it could go quite cataclysmically wrong.
Yeah.
And not being aware of that. I said, actually, you are risking your life.
Yeah.
When you go. You might not be directly, but there is an element of risk to what you do, which makes sense with your role as SafetyBee, is understanding the risks, mitigating those risks, checking it over, looking it over, and making sure that those people do come home.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think we've got to care enough about people to have our heart pricked. We were talking about conscience before we started filming. We've got to have a conscience. Our conscience has got to be alive, especially if we're working within safety, but even being a business owner or being a business manager, or if you're in charge of people, or you're overseeing people, you've got to always be aware that something could go wrong today, and which could totally change their lives. And so health and safety can be really, really boring, but it's not boring when you're affected and your life is affected by somebody's negligence, or just by somebody being busy. Having a bad morning, get up, jump in the car, poof, jump on the motorway, then they're late for work, and there's so many things going on in their lives and one thing leads to another, but their mind could be just elsewhere because they may have had a row with their wife that morning, or another bill's come through the door and we can't afford to pay for this or pay for that, or so many things could be happening. Our minds could just be somewhere else, and we could just jump in the car, hit the motorway, and not be focused on that road, and bam,
all done.
And then people's lives are changed. I've worked with so many people. The beauty of working in safety is that you get to work with people from all walks of life.
Yeah.
And one young man, he was my supervisor for a while, and I learned a lot from him. And I just think he's just one of the most, for a young person working in safety, he was great. But he had the experience, one, he was ex-army, and two, as a young guy, he had family members who had worked on the rails as the cleanup team.
Okay.
And he would tell me stories about, one driver, for instance, could be having a bad morning, jumps, goes to work, gets on the train, starts driving, misses something, I don't know, a signal or something, or the signalman have put out the wrong signal. Just somebody just not having, their minds just not being in the right place at that time. But he worked with family members who were the ones who went and cleaned up bodies from off the rails.
Wow.
And the body could be all over the track, for miles long. The leg is here, the head's there, and they'd have to go and find those body parts and bring them back together. And
because it's not just suicide on the route. It's workers just taking a step back onto the train without looking the other way.
Yeah.
And like I know a company that does training on that aspect, and there's some pretty heavy stats, which is why they train and train and train, because just as you said, you're not on it one day. You take a step back, and then you've got so many tons, coming at you, and that's it. It's over, and then you have to deal with the fallout from that. So, for me, having someone like that in your life is also another checkpoint, isn't it? Because it's like they're going to be double, triple checked to make sure this place is absolutely squeaky clean as a construction site.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And motorways, when you hear the stories of people who are actually cleaning up the bodies, because we drive on the motorway.
Yeah.
And we see there's been a really bad accident.
Yeah.
We might slow down and try and take a peek It's human nature.
Rubbernecking, they call it.
Rubbernecking.
Yeah.
But we don't think of the clean-up team who's got to clean up and pick up again body parts, you know.
Yeah.
And so when you get to work with different people from all walks of life, you really get to see how serious it is. One, not just being a health and safety consultant or, you know, a worker within health and safety, an employee or business owner, but even just within everyday life. Like I think of my home and you know, if the kids start daisy chaining, I got to think of, okay, let me just check those plugs. What are they doing in their rooms? And have a quick little look. Because I've stood, you know, funny, I've stood next to a plug. I can't remember what I bought. I think it was a battery charging pack.
Yeah.
Bought offline, plugged it in. It wasn't long after, I was still in that room, but I could smell burning. So I'm walking around trying to find where this smell is coming from. I just stood, you know, by the fridge where this thing was plugged into the side. So it wasn't highly visible. And when I looked, I saw smoke come off that device. But if I wasn't there to unplug it and take it out, who knows what could have happened? We could have been in the early hours.
I'll give you another example. It's like linseed cloths. So what I didn't know with a linseed cloth, once you've used it, so we've got like an oak table, bought some linseed, covered it all, looks great. And I've done that probably 5-6 times now since we've had the table. Looks great, awesome. And we put the linseed cloth in the cupboard, shut the cupboard, didn't think anything of it. Then we sat there and we're like you said, you're like, can someone cook something, or someone like, you know, burnt rice or whatever in the microwave? Like, anyway, we opened the cupboard door and there was the cloth self-combusting.
Yeah.
And it was just smoking. And we took it out and we threw it outside and we're like, what is going on here? And then we Googled it. And it is a massive thing. Linseed cloth, self-combusting, on sites, burning whole warehouses down and whatever. Now, I didn't even know that was a thing. Yeah. And then I was like, phoned my dad, because my dad's done a lot of things. He didn't hear about it. And it's just amazing how many people don't know about it. So now I'm saying, oh, if you ever use linseed oil, well, let me just tell you this. I just do it as a point of, if you ever use it, get hold of the cloth and stick it in the garden. It doesn't matter. Just buy a new one. So we make a point now, if ever we do it, the cloths, we just get rid of them. Stick them in the garden first and foremost, so they're completely sodden and get rid of them. But the point of it is that health and safety can be learnt through experience. Yes. But that experience also needs to be passed on. And if it's not passed on, then it essentially dies a death, but can cause someone to die a death because that information hasn't been handed over. And we take it so for granted. From health and safety, we think, oh, it's just on the construction site. Even though in our own home, as you said, daisy chaining and whatever else, you know, if you want to get the lawnmower in your garden and the plug sockets are all taken and you're just daisy chaining all the way to the back garden, and then all of a sudden something happens, it's craziness. So
there's, you know, little hazards. Little hazards can become big hazards, can become accidents. You know, there's just, I just think we've just got to be aware. But if we're business owners, we have to be aware of, you know, we're actually looking after, if we're employers, we're looking after people. And people have lives. Their lives are important. And their families are important. And we just want to make sure as much as possible. And the other thing is, I'm so glad we're in 2025 because mental health, you know, health, safety, fires is what I work in. But health and safety, we did a lot within safety for years and years.
Of course.
But thank God now health, well-being, mental health, those topics now are being spoken, you know, openly. And we're challenging, I think we're challenging the norm now, whereas we never used to. You couldn't go to your employer and say, oh, I'm really stressed and, you know, it's affecting my well-being and I'm not sleeping or this or that. You couldn't do that in the past. But now it's happening and men are talking, which is great.
Yeah, so you know, for me, I was speaking to I'm not going to name them because they are coming on the podcast, but I'm speaking to a friend of mine, and he's worked in the building game for many years, you know, doing office fit outs, refurbishments, that sort of stuff. And he said exactly what you said, the emphasis on health and the emphasis on men in the workplace. The suicide rates are off the scale.
Yeah.
And it's not talked about enough.
No.
And so what he's planning to do with his business that is doing workwear is to actually have a logo on the jacket or on the T-shirt with a number to call.
Oh, that's a good idea.
And so no matter what workwear they print, that is visible.
Wow.
So, you know, that person could subtly take a picture and then go and have a conversation rather than not know where to go.
Yes.
So I'm actually having a conversation with the person that heads the charity up that deals with it, which he's going to put on all the workwear products in the next few days, and they're going to come on the podcast as well.
Yeah.
So construction is a big thing, and his whole premise is he said no one should go to work in the morning and not come home again.
That's right.
And he said that's the underlying principle. And he said with all the pressures in the building trade and construction challenges as well, he said, you know, suicide's a real thing.
Yeah.
You know, so for me, it's a case of health and safety. The emphasis on health rather than just safety goes beyond the fact that there are people working on things and making things happen. So from your perspective, you've gone from sort of like, you said you with your husband, like looking around and working. So when did it become a thing that you had to go and work in the industry? You know, was it something that you and your husband had agreed that you would do, or something happened and then you ended up having to be the breadwinner? How did that work?
Yeah, well, we did divorce.
Okay.
You know, on our journeys, we did divorce.
Yeah.
We were the type of couple who loved each other, couldn't live together, but couldn't live apart.
Right.
So we had the years of the ups and the downs, and I love you, but I hate you, and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just learned so much from him. And funny enough, my eldest son works on the rails now.
Okay.
He's doing really well. He's an installer, so he's safety for him is really high up there as well, because he's installing the electrics for the signals and stuff.
Yeah.
So we've passed this down to the children. I mean, they've learned about safety by default, really.
Yeah.
So we did split, and I did retrain. We actually went to New Zealand to live for a couple of years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And when we came back, I was actually, we went to New Zealand on my qualifications.
Yeah.
They needed building and building operatives, which he had all the experience for, but not the qualifications.
Right.
But at that time, I'd retrained to be because I have a theology degree. But I retrained, because I was having the children. So I retrained as a early years, a child worker, early years, what do you call it? Like a nursery worker.
Yeah.
And so that took us over to New Zealand for to get through all of the
immigration and visas
yeah,
and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, the residency.
Yeah.
So, but when we came back, so when we were over there, we were going through hard times there as well. And a friend of mine there said, Diana, if you work in, what's it called? Property.
Property development?
No, it was
Maintenance.
estate agency.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Real estate. If you get into real estate, you can earn double to what you're earning
Just doing
as a
childcare.
child worker, as a nursery worker for less time.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, okay, I'm now the only breadwinner, because Wayne came back to the UK at that point, and I was there with the children. So I was like, okay, I need to earn good money, but I also need to be there for the kids.
Yeah.
So she said, do this. So I said, okay. She introduced me to a couple of people, and I became a real estate agent, and started off doing really, really well. And then we came back to the UK. Now, when I came back to the UK, I was going to do the same, but I had to retrain again, do the UK equivalent qualification to work as in a state agency. And when I went to the college, they said to me, if you're interested in doing that course, maybe you should think about doing this, which was the domestic energy assessor course.
Okay.
So I thought, okay, Di, you know what? Just go with the flow, go with what's happening within the industry, what's happening within the UK and within the property industry here. Each property before it's sold needed to have an EPC.
That's right, yeah.
So I thought, brilliant. I'm going to be one of the first. I'm going to be at the forefront of this new industry. I'll go for it. So I did. And so I retrained and then set up the business. I was working for myself, and then I actually went into a business and had a shop and was doing really well with that. So so from there then, everything was going okay. And then health and safety kept popping up. I said, okay, Lord, are you calling me now into health and safety, which I could do alongside being a domestic energy assessor?
Yeah.
This is all to do with property and people. And so I just it just came on board. It's almost like it called me.
Yeah.
So I went to work for E.ON. I was doing some work for E.ON, doing work for lots of companies actually, doing work for United Welsh Housing Association, doing community engagement, doing a lot of work, had some really good contracts. And then E.ON needed some people in Wales to do some work for them. So they wanted to get out a lot of the loft insulation and cavity wall insulation. I said, okay, I can do some work for E.ON. So I did some work for E.ON. And then when that ended, that season ended, there were a few of us in Wales going up and down the country outside. I would have been one of those people in the big E.ON van outside of, say, Sainsbury's.
Okay.
And working with the communities and, and just making people's homes warm.
Yeah.
And that was great because it was a good mission to be on. Let's save people money. Let's make their homes warm.
Impacting people,
Yeah. And also climate change was a real big
driver.
Yeah, at the moment, at that time. So, I thought, wow, this is great. Let's save the planet and put some money in people's pockets. So that's what I was thinking at the time, and to me, it sat well with my own personal convictions.
Yeah.
So, so when E.ON then was sort of like, okay, we've done enough with Wales, we've exhausted Wales, and another eco scheme was coming out. They said, we're going to shut down the Welsh arm of things. I said, okay. And they said, Anna, we've got some other roles on, have a look online and see what you fancy. And what was there? Health and safety. They needed somebody in the southwest region to work in health and safety. And I thought, wow, it's, when things just at the alignment just seems right. Everything aligned well. So I applied for the job, and for the interview, part of the interview is we had to put something together on, look at statistics of some health and safety statistics. So I did that. And then when I was playing around with that, my creative side, it was jumping out. And I was like, oh, let me do some graphs. Let me play around with, what's it called? The spreadsheets. Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Play around with Excel, the statistics. I put them into the Excel spreadsheet. I mean, I'm not brilliant at tech, but I was just playing around. But it worked really well, because when I went for the interview, they said, how did you get this information? I said, on Google. They said, well, how did you know all? I said, I just Googled everything, put it into a spreadsheet, and this is what I got. Yeah. And they said, well, this is what we actually do within the role.
Wow.
So I was like, well, I had to give God thanks for that, because where I was playing and my creativity was coming out and I was enjoying it. I flew through the interview stages.
But that's an interesting one, isn't it? It's like you fortuitously play around and do something,
Yeah.
and it's exactly what they're looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I knew it was God, and I knew it was for me to. So at the time I was thinking, okay, do I move into this area? Do I stay with, and try to do something else with on the green side of things, an eco, but it was just screaming at me, no, go this way. This is the right way.
Yeah.
And the Lord was really saying to me, I'm leading you this way, Di. I mean, there was no doubt about it.
Yeah.
So I went down that road, and I've never looked back, to be honest. It was just the perfect thing to do. And
So you've been in the area of health and safety now for how many years?
so that was about 2012,
Okay.
2013.
Yeah, so you've got over 10 years worth of experience at least,
Yeah.
So-
That's not even counting, what I used to do with Wayne.
Yeah.
And naturally, I found with whatever job I went for. So for instance, when I was 16, I did the Debenhams YTS. Even on that scheme, I was in charge of health. And we need people who
It's
are,
a bit of a theme, eh?
yeah. So every job I went for, I was the one who would champion health and safety. Just
Wow.
naturally see things, say, that's not right, that bin is overflowing, someone's going to trip on this, or can we put something down here, someone's going to trip, or these boxes look a bit too high, what's holding them at the back, they're going to fall on the customer. I naturally had the acumen.
Which is interesting because ultimately, if you think about it now, that you were playing a game called Authority,
Yeah.
and you become the authority in health and safety.
Exactly.
Like you were pre-practicing
Yeah.
being an authority in something. And based on experience and qualifications,
Yeah.
and the all-round knowledge of the property game, for example,
Yes.
you now you can see it from both sides.
Yes.
You can see it from a governance perspective, and you can
Yes.
see it from the organisation trying to sell the property or deliver
Yeah.
the properties or make the properties.
Exactly.
And so, you've got a pretty good package of understanding everybody's needs
And
to do it.
yes. And also working with United Welsh Housing Association, community engagement. What I had to do there is I'd be sent into huge communities, and like Cumb Park, for instance, or somewhere in the valleys.
Yeah.
And I'd have to find the person who knew everyone, was very well loved in the area, was into everything, everyone's business. Find that person, let them know what we're doing, hire a hall, and then have a series of meetings where the whole community would come in, all different hours, so those were in work full time. We'd be there 7 o'clock on an evening or 8 o'clock on an evening, and I would explain to them what we're doing, how it's going to benefit them, what are the downsides of it, if there's any problems, and aftercare,
Yeah.
all of that. So getting the whole, working in all of the area of, with people, you get to learn what people need and what people want and their concerns.
I think what stands out for me is that sometimes purpose isn't like a thing that you discover and execute and deliver at age 16. It can be, but through making a series of decisions over a period of time, it's almost like in your case, purpose has slowly unfolded itself to the point that now you've got the confidence and the clarity to go, I'm going to start my own business with all this knowledge, which I wouldn't have started before. And now I'm ready to build a legacy project, if you like, at the sort of the mid to later part of your career where you're saying, right, now I've got all that knowledge and expertise. I want to pass that on to the next generation to ensure that we are helping every build be completely safe. The people working on the project are mentally there and present. And I find that quite an amazing journey that you've always wanted to be an entrepreneur.
Yes.
You've ended up falling in health and safety, and it's almost like the two paths have finally come together much later on in life. So therefore now you're ready to deliver.
Yes.
So for me, that's great. So just tell us a little bit about SafetyBee.
Yeah.
What's the end game? How do you see SafetyBee? How have you got to that point from coming up with a name and all that sort of stuff? Just share a little bit about that.
Well, I believe in, at this stage in my life, I just believe that the Lord will help me with every step I take.
Yeah.
And it's nice having this conversation today because I'm at a place where I have peace within myself and with God, and that He has been with me from when I was very, very young and was playing the game of the authorities to where I am now, where He trusts me to look after His people.
Nice. Yeah.
So SafetyBee, another thing about me is one of my sisters would always say to me, Di, what bee have you got in your bonnet now? Because I'd always be on a mission about something.
Yeah.
And I might be on a mission for a while and then move on to the next mission. And that was hard for me, being that type of person who would be moving on to different missions. I always used to beat myself up and say, well, why can't you just settle into one thing? And I'd always admire people who'd say, oh, I've worked in Debenhams for 20 odd years, or I've been working in, I don't know, for Tesco for 20 years and I'm getting my pension. And I used to think, well, I'm not like that.
Yeah.
And I used to beat myself up about that. But now I realize that I wouldn't be here if I hadn't had all the experience of working in different environments with different people at different stages of my life.
Yeah.
And if you put me in a situation, I'm learning, I'm picking up what's going on. You know, I'm looking at, what's this mic all about? Like, why is it like this? And can it be moved? And so I'm always, when I'm in an environment, I can't help but look around, see what's going on, almost like scanning the place to see what's going on. Oh, what's this? And I'm quite a sensory person.
Yeah.
And so SafetyBee really is an accumulation or a culmination of all those years.
Yeah.
And I'm at a place now where I'm just confident in what I know, what I do, and my creativity, which is all God-given.
Yeah.
So the path is, the Lord's led me down the path. He's made me the way I am. And He's given me this creativity where I just know if somebody needs something, I know I can find a way of making that dream come true for them within safety or within property. So, for instance, somebody could say, Di, okay, we haven't had a manager within this property for a long time, but you're just coming to do the fire risk assessment. Well, I'm looking at this place and I'm thinking, okay, well, while I'm here, hang on. I can't just look in your cupboards to see if the fire stopping has been corrected or if it was built correctly. Well, if I'm here, let me just look to see if your downpipes are right or if they're hanging off. I'm not just going to do your fire risk assessment and not tell you that your downpipe's falling off.
Yeah.
And while I was looking in the loft, I noticed there's birds' nests in there, or, that the vents are falling down. I'm looking at everything because once you're a person who's working in safety, you can't help looking at everything.
Which is, and it's funny, isn't it? Because most people, like, are faith-based. They go, right, I'm going to go on a minibus and I'm going to drive to a foreign land and I'm going to give a load of, like, clothing out, right?
Yeah.
And what you're saying is, no, with the insights and the thing of you wanting to care for people, you're called, in a sense, to help people and protect people and be the eyes and ears to an organisation that might not see it. Yeah. And so because of that background, when you go into an environment to do the tick box job, you can't help but go the extra mile. That's just in your DNA in what you actually do.
Yeah.
So for me, to see that your whole career has gone from, like being the authority as a young kid, and then all of a sudden being the authority in the health and safety space, but holistically, looking at it and going, well, if you're missing this person, I'll go and find that person to deliver it.
Yes.
I think it's a very great encouragement to businesses that as you said, have been in businesses maybe 20, 30 years and still thinking of scratching that itch and becoming an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
I guess what you're saying is that experience is worth something.
Yes.
And it's never too late to start your own. Would that be a good thing?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And now I trust God more than ever.
Yeah.
And so SafetyBee is actually birthed from another series of events. So I was asking the Lord, I set up a safety business, started working for myself. And then when things were changing just after COVID, within the economy, I had a bit of a wobble and I thought, oh, hang on. And people actually, speaking to a couple of people who were already running health and safety businesses, they said, oh, Diana, we're not sure what's going on within the economy, within the health and safety space. We're just waiting. We're hoping that, things kind of change, because the economy was going up and down.
Yeah.
We were in recession and we weren't in recession. And so it's difficult to step out. And if people are not spending,
yeah,
you can't, it's not really a good time to step out and say, oh, I'm going to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
So you've got to be very, very careful. And you've got to watch what's going on within the economy, before stepping out and starting a new business. So I thought, okay, I better get a job. So I got employment. So, and then I was thinking again, okay, wasn't sure how long I was going to be employment for. But again, if I'm in employment, I'm doing my best, I'm learning, I'm sharing, I'm building relationships, and I'm just doing the best that I can and try to, every day, you've got to think of, okay, who am I saving today? And how many lives am I saving today?
Yeah. By making the decisions.
While making the decisions. And so the Lord spoke to me, because I was saying to the Lord, shall I just stay now in this, or shall I, so 2 years on, shall I resurface this business, which I set up? I was waiting on the Lord for answers. And then somebody came to our church to speak. Can I say their name?
Yeah, go.
It was Kevin Byrne.
Yeah.
He came to our church to speak. And he said, some of you here have got a business which has died and which is dormant, and you're thinking, should I bring it back to life? And I was sitting there and thinking, okay, Lord, I could just feel the Holy Spirit speaking to me.
Yeah.
And he was talking about how the Checker Trade, okay, those who don't know Kevin Byrne is the guy who, or the creator of Checker Trade.
That's right.
Checker Trade, checkertrade.com.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is a household name. I grew up knowing. And I used to think, who set up that? Years later, never thought in my life that years later I would meet that person. Yeah. So he said that, and afterwards I went for prayer. And he prayed for me, laid hands on me, and he said, Lord, all the good that is within me, give it to her. And he actually said to me, oh, I see. He went, oh, he was praying for me, laid hands on me. Yeah. And he said, oh, I see finances. Oh, I see a lot of money. He was actually physically taken aback by what the Lord was showing him.
Yeah.
So that was the second thing. And now one of my sisters had a dream, and she said, Di, I had a dream about you. I said, okay. She said, you were given 20,000, I think it was 20,000 pounds. And you came and said, oh, I've been given 20,000 pounds, my sister Michelle. And she said, oh, lend me a couple of grand. I said, yeah, okay. Laughing. And she said, in the dream, off you went. Then you came back and said, oh, it wasn't 20,000. It was 250,000. Or was it 25? But it was 250,000.
Wow.
All in the same time, the same, space.
Yeah.
So the Lord was speaking to me loud and clear. So, but anyway, then I was going to a meeting.
Yeah.
Just maybe a month later, and I was talking to the Lord again. At 7:30, I was in a hotel, and I was sat on my bed talking to the Lord, and I said, Lord, shall I take money out of my pension to rebrand the business and to, make it into something and to really, and go forward with a proper business. Not trying anymore to run a business. I mean, rebrand and go for a proper business. And that was about 7:30 in the morning. When I'd got to the venue, I had actually prayed for somebody the day before, and I'd said to her, with your gift of prophecy, just keep using it, keep speaking to people, and keep practicing, because then the doubt of whether you have the gift or not, all those doubts will go because you'll just be using it. So, so on this day, that was the day before. So in the morning, I was talking to the Lord about rebranding the business, taking money out of a pension and doing that. And then about 11 o'clock, we were back at the meeting and in the hotel. And that same lady was there. And I said to her, I just said, you know what? Just give me a word. Because I said, how are you since the prayer yesterday? And how are you feeling? And she said, good. She said, good. And I just said, tell you what, just give me a word now. I thought she was just going to say something, I don't know. But she said to me, I'm still shocked when I tell the story. She said to me, I don't know how old you are, but maybe you're coming up to pensionable age, because with black people, you can't always tell how old they are and stuff like that. So we're laughing about that. And then
what's the saying of black don't crack?
Don't
that's what that's it.
So, it does crack. Yeah. But anyway, she said to me, and I could see her face physically change. Yeah. And I could see her go into this place with God. And she said to me, you were thinking of, with the finger, you were thinking of taking money out of your pension and putting it into your business and rebranding the business. She said, the Lord said, do it, and you are going to be very successful.
Well, there you go.
Daryl, I nearly fell through the floor because God has spoken to me. But I said to him, Lord, at this stage in my life now, this is like, to me, this is like my last push, my last chance to do something phenomenal and to leave a legacy for my children and the grandchildren. Mm-hmm. So I'm thinking about the grandchildren, because the scripture talks about how a good person leaves not just something for their children, an inheritance for their children's children. So I'm thinking my little Amira and my little Jonah. And when she said that, I was like, wow, I knew my legs are going weak just telling the story. But I'd said to Lord, I need clear direction. I need clear words. Yeah. Nothing like, is it God speaking? Is it? Maybe it's me talking. Yeah. I need it clear. And that's what happened. And then I sat on the table where you were, and you were just opposite me, and you were sitting there very quietly, just we're in the conference, and you were taking notes, and I kept looking over, and the Lord kept saying to me, let Daryl rebrand your business. And I said, okay, Lord, is this you? And I'm back to, Lord, just confirm it. And again, I'd look over, Lord saying, let Daryl rebrand the business. And I'm also, everything I do now is about purpose, which you wouldn't have known that at the time.
No, not at all, no.
Because we hadn't really spoken. I'd seen you in church. We hadn't really spoken. I joined the 4D Entrepreneurs Business Club, but we hadn't really had a conversation. But the other thing with me is with church and with my money, I'm very intentional on what I do with my money. So when I earn money, I believe in tithing. I must give God back his. In fact, if I was rich, I would just give it all to the church for the work that the church is doing, because I know that every penny I earn comes from God. It's not my money. He gives me money. So my 10%, and the people who I work with, I want them to be tithers. So we've got this circular economy going within the church. So when I give, I don't know your business and what you do with your money. Yeah. And that's not my business. But it's my business. If the Lord's telling me to take that money out and give it to you, I trust him. that my money will be a part of the circular economy and will go back into our church.
Correct. Yeah.
Because the lives we're saying and the phenomenal things we do in our church with money, it's just, we're changing lives. So, so the Lord spoke to me and told me to speak to you to rebrand my business.
And now we're here.
And now we're here.
Yeah.
But the other thing, what happened, this is how God is so good. And it's so important to have the right people around you.
Yeah.
And the value that I've got from you rebranding my business. You haven't just done that, Darryl, because I still had issues with money.
Yeah.
And and the authority
over
money.
Yeah.
And you helped me, you and Claire helped me with even the issues with taking money out of your pension. It's your money.
Yeah.
But where it's sitting and where it's invested, those companies like to think is that, and they want to hold on to it for as long as possible. And I had to go through a whole mindset change and a whole training almost of how to take authority over my money.
Yeah.
And you and Claire helped me with that. Awesome. And that's where I am where I am.
And you know what, for us, it's been a great journey to see you. So being part of that conference earlier on in the year with Carmelita, and Kevin Byrne, and Kevin Byrne is like one of those guys where you look at him and he said it. I was just Kev, and ultimately exited for 75 million.
Yeah,
incredible story. But he's just as humble as he was back then. He doesn't walk around. He hasn't got flashy cars, clothes, whatever.
No,
he invests his money into charitable projects in India. And places like that, and he is, he's built hospitals, he's built schools, But I said to him, when you've made that kind of money, like 75 million is life changing money, right? It's legacy changing, generational wealth.
Yeah.
I said, what keeps you getting up? And he said, as long as I know that one child could be sold for $20 and a bag of flour into slavery, he said, I will keep going and doing what I'm doing. And I think ultimately, that's coming back to where you're at. As long as you know that you want a worker to wake up in the morning and come back having delivered what they're supposed to do for their job, it keeps you going safely to reshape an industry and make it a lot safer than it actually is. So Diana, it's been a wonderful conversation, and I know we could keep going.
I know
it could be like a Joe Rogan special for 2 hours about all the different things, and it's quite good. Just like we've done the whole professional thing, and then we talked about the faith aspect of things. But ultimately, just to see where you are and you stepping out is great, and I'm really excited to see where things go from here. And we definitely have you back on the sofa to say how far things have been going. But it's been really fun. It's been really good to sort of like get to know you and get to know your journey from all that experience, and rather than let it just fall, turn it round and say, right, now I'm willing to turn it into something great. So thank you so much for joining us. How would someone reach out to you at the moment? Is it just find you on LinkedIn?
You can find me on LinkedIn and Facebook.
Okay.
And I'm still learning how to, I still need support actually with moving into business again and big business.
Yeah.
How they all work together with social media.
Yeah. Okay.
So my Facebook, that's at my private kind of, but it's on a public, everything's on there.
Yeah.
But I'm still going to need support with all of that because there's so many things I want to do. And
so there's the best place then to start off with. But the best
place, I'd say LinkedIn.
LinkedIn, yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, LinkedIn is best, I think.
LinkedIn, and then what we do is when this is obviously edited and put out, we'll put all we'll just put your little your URL and all that sort of stuff out there as well. But Dinah, thank you so much for taking the time and spending some time talking about purpose and how that it's never too late. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for listening to the Purpose People podcast. How you can help us is to like and subscribe our YouTube channel. You can also subscribe to our podcasts on Apple, Spotify, Google and Amazon. That helps us get our message out there to help people go after their dreams, double down on it and be successful in life on their terms.